All right, y'all. So it's Victory Monday. The Bills got a nice, ugly win against the Cleveland Browns yesterday. So I got my salute to service, Buffalo Bills. Let's go. Victory Monday shirt on. Let's see what the coach has to say.
We'll go one at a time here. So Jordan Phillips is improving. Matt Prater, he's in the same boat. Jordan Poyer tweaked his hamstring. Day-to-day, he'll be day-to-day. Daquan Jones, also day-to-day, as is Josh Allen. DQ has a calf. Josh has a foot. And then Shaq Thompson has a neck. He'll be day-to-day as well. That's all I have.
Do you expect, I know you said Josh is day-to-day, do you expect that to limit him, like, during the practice week at all, or?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
There's a chance it does. We'll see. We're going to practice a little bit tomorrow based on availability. We got a number of guys that are not going to be able to practice. We'll see how Josh shows up tomorrow and how he's feeling.
He obviously got x-rays. Does he need to do any further testing?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did it swell up or anything? Was there any setbacks overnight or anything?
None. Just sore.
And just to clarify, there is the anticipation he will be available for this weekend?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Obviously, hoping that everything goes well with him throughout the week, but Shane Buechele gets an opportunity in Kansas City first. What are you excited for him and that opportunity, and what will that look like this week in terms of maybe looking at other quarterbacks to add?
Yeah, we'll look into that part in terms of adding another quarterback. I think more than anything, I'm happy for Shane. He and his family, they've been with us and done a phenomenal job, and have a ton of respect and love and admiration for Shane.
Sean, after the game yesterday, and even after the New England game, players kept saying just the fact that winning at this time of the year matters the most. Doesn't matter the mistakes that you make in the game. As a coach, how do you frame your messaging between games at this time of the year to make sure that guys aren't riding the highs, aren't riding the lows, and aren't getting too caught up in a bad quarter, a bad half, a bad drive, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's they've got it right. You want to make sure that you're winning games all the while, week to week, that we're improving as a football team, and we're being honest with ourselves of, yes, we do have quite a bit of work to do and things to work on. So, and our players are, they're wired that way. They know that it wasn't all perfect yesterday, and it wasn't the week before either. And so they come to work every day extremely focused and intent on trying to improve. So I think that's the key to all this, is big picture perspective, yet at the same time just being present day to day and how we can improve as a team.
Translation, baby, you got to stay humble and hungry.
Sean, what went into the decision to have Keon inactive yesterday?
Yeah, just a combination of receivers offensively that we wanted up, and then obviously McCole was moved into the 5 spot there for primarily special teams purposes, but also a little bit of receiver as well.
Sean, along the same lines, second straight week for Gabe being down. Is there any amount of are you resting because he went 0 to 100 on it with his knee when you brought him back? So is there any amount of that to that?
No. It's just more so offensive game planning that's in play, and Gabe, like Keon, we have confidence in both of those guys, and their opportunity will come up and they'll be ready.
How did you feel like McCole did yesterday? I know only 2 snaps. But.
Yeah, limited samples, so it was good to have him back out there. And if you remember several weeks ago when he first went out there, made a big splash, and then unfortunately went down. So just kind of dipping our toe in this past week and getting him going again a little bit here.
I know Khalil went out for the last punt return. Why was it Khalil and not McCole?
Just coach's choice, the wind and whatnot, and felt like, McCole had fielded some in the game. I think he had 1 in the game, and then, Khalil had fielded quite a few in the games leading up to that game. So just wanted at that point in the in the game to secure the catch and get the ball back at that point, and didn't feel like it was the right situation at that point for us.
Sean, you were asked after the game about the production from the wide receiver group, possibly excluding Khalil, so the boundary receivers mostly. Now that you've had a chance to watch it back, how would you review that? And maybe just not just from this game, but here over maybe the last stretch month or so from that group.
Yeah, Jay, it's a fair question and an accurate question. You know, we haven't had probably the production that we'd all would want.
Look, let's talk about receivers for a second. This is an interesting time to go ahead and pause this. I think the Buffalo Bills should only draft receivers in the 3rd and 4th round from now on. And here's the reason why. They tend to like guys who are going to earn it, right? They're going to pay their dues. They're going to earn it. When we put on the film, when we look at you under a microscope, we want to see you down the field, blocking safeties, blocking in the running game, maximum effort, and you might get, maybe if you're lucky, 2 or 3 passes a game, right? Like, ever since Stephon Diggs, this poor man is scarred with receivers, right? And so look, the best receivers that we've drafted recently, right? Tell me if I'm wrong. Khalil Shakir was a 5th rounder, right? And Gabe Davis was a 4th rounder. And those are the best receivers that we've drafted, because those guys, when you get them in the 4th and 5th round, they tend to they got to pay their dues. They got to be disciplined. They got to bring a different mindset. They've got to earn it, right? You've seen them trade back out of the 1st round, first with Kansas City and then with Charlotte, North Carolina, Carolina Panthers, and then they take Keon Coleman, right? I was screaming at the TV. I wanted Lad McConkey so bad, only because he was awesome with Georgia Bulldogs. That's where James Cook came from, and obviously SEC team, highly competitive. He traded back. He got the bigger, slower guy. I think this is like a glitch when it comes to Bean and McDermott. This is like, Calvin Benjamin 2.0, right? They drafted Calvin Benjamin, a big, slow, dopey receiver in Carolina. They come to Buffalo. They try to bring Calvin Benjamin in. He's still a big, slow, dopey receiver. And then, they trade back with Kansas City the year we get Keon Coleman. And they trade back and they say, no, you go ahead, Kansas City. You get the speed receiver that would, clear everything out. If we had him on Buffalo, he would clear everything out for the underneath guys, which is our entire offense is underneath. It's mesh concept. They trade back and they take the big, dopey, slow guy, right? So Keon Coleman, to me, is Calvin Benjamin 2.0. But I don't think Keon Coleman is a complete waste. They just don't use him right. And I'm going to go ahead, just bear with me for a second here. They're trying to use him in an X, a 1 or a 2, a boundary receiver, right? And all those games when Dalton Kincaid was missing time with a hamstring, with a knee injury, they should be having Coleman run Dalton Kincaid's tight end routes, because he is actually a better slot receiver. And if you look at Kincaid, Dalton Kincaid basically he's a tight end that doesn't block, right? He may block down the field for the running game against like a safety, or he'll try to get on a corner. He doesn't block like in the same way Jackson Hawes blocks, right? Where you line him up outside of a tackle and he physically engages with a D lineman, or, you know what I mean? He gets in there and gets fit. He's not like that. So when you have an injury to Dalton Kincaid, in my opinion, look, we don't want Coleman long-term, honestly, because he was a bust. He was a miss. But here's an area where you could use him. And especially given that the Dalton Kincaid role in the offense is so important to our team, right? Dalton Kincaid's role is vital. You can tell the difference is night and day. When Dalton Kincaid's on the field, the offense goes through Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid pulls the attention of the defense towards his routes and opens things up for Khalil Shakir, opens things up for other guys, Dawson Knox, James Cook out of the backfield. So all I'm saying is, given that the fact that Dalton Kincaid is so often injured, and maybe you should pull back a little bit and get him healthy for that first and second round of the playoffs, because we're going to desperately need him. why not try running Coleman in Dalton Kincaid's route tree? Have him effectively line up as a tight. Coleman and Kincaid are the same thing, essentially. They're basically a big, slow wide receiver. And Kincaid, we just call him a tight end. He's a big, slow wide receiver. He's good over the middle of the field if you can match him up on a linebacker. He's a mismatch. Coleman is the same thing. So all I'm saying is, McDermott doesn't do a good job with receivers. He's scarred from Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is a loudmouth diva, but he's a stud, right? And he's a T.O., throw me the damn ball, we're going to make this happen kind of guy. But McDermott couldn't handle that personality, right? He doesn't handle that type of personality very well. And so what do? They, eventually he gets traded out. We bring in, Calvin Benjamin 2.0. Keon Coleman, what a joke. What a joker. And then, all I'm saying is going forward, the Bills should not be drafting first or second round wide receivers because, frankly, we don't know how to identify the right type of talent. And we don't value the boundary wide receiver position. It's clear that Sean McDermott's offense is run, ground and pound, 2, sometimes 3 tight ends. We're going to throw to tight ends and running backs and mesh concepts to the wide receivers. So we're moving the chains. We're driving the ball, right? We're not going to have the flashy wide receiver down the field. He's not going to win sexy, even though the fans want to win sexy, right? And I'll tell you why. Growing up, I watched the 4 Super Bowl teams, right? So I'm a kid. 1990, I'm 10 years old, right? So 89, it's the heartbreaking, I believe, loss to Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC Championship game. 90, Super Bowl, and then Super Bowl 4 in a row, right? And those teams, those were K-gun run and shoot offense. It doesn't make sense for Buffalo because of our weather, but the fan base loves to win in that style. We love the quarterback like Jim Kelly with the strong arm, like Josh Allen with the strong arm that could throw it a freaking mile. And we love to see the wide receivers, right? Jim Kelly's K-gun offense was 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and a running back, Thurman Thomas, Hall of Fame back. You got Josh Allen, who's, I hate to say it, it's almost like blasphemy, but he's better than Jim Kelly. It's amazing. He is better than Jim. Josh Allen is already a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if you go ahead and get him 1 Super Bowl victory, he is a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer. And James Cook is emerging as what Thurman Thomas was to the K-gun offense. James Cook he's a dog, bro. Georgia Bulldogs, national championship in college. He's coming out of the draft and Bean's calling him a sub back, a third down back, and he's proving everybody wrong. He's the number 1 back in the NFL right now. He's a stud. He's awesome. I'm so glad we re-signed him. And by far second best back on the team. But we love that K-gun style of offense, that Jim Kelly, that no huddle, 3 wide receivers. And so, yeah, sure. You could win ugly. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles won ugly last year. They won a Super Bowl with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, who honestly is not really even that good. And they just did the ground and pound thing and played great defense. And when the defense is overcommitted to the run game, they'll hit you over the top with a big pass. I don't even think Buffalo would do that. We don't hit anybody over the top for a big pass, frankly. But that's okay. It's kind of ironic that we're going to end up, I think, that we have a good chance to win the Super Bowl this year, and we could potentially end up winning the Super Bowl with this ugly shit show team. But whatever, a Super Bowl is a Super Bowl. Hang that banner in the new stadium, right? But listen, that's just my take. So listen, going forward, receivers only in the 3rd and 4th round because they got to earn it, they got to prove it, and they're not going to get a lot of balls. They're not going to be able to demand the ball. They're not going to be able to have that diva, I'm here to make money, I'm a ball-out personality because McDermott can't handle that. But look, I mean, Coleman was a bust. If you get a chance, I would try running him in some of those Dalton Kincaid routes. Scheme him as Dalton Kincaid when Dalton Kincaid can't be out there because he's hurt.
I'm sure that those guys would say the same. And nobody works harder. That group is a group of hardworking guys, and I know specifically the game plan yesterday, you hold the ball too long against that defensive line and Myles Garrett, and you're going to feel it, right? So I thought Joe and the offensive staff did a great job with the game plan. The results in the first half showed that, and so, but there's.
They did. The only play that's disappointing, really, from the first half, my only complaint for the entire game is the play that Josh Allen apparently almost got really hurt really bad on. Look, he's got to learn to throw the damn ball out of bounds and just move on to the next play. Okay? Look, if you're rolling out and the play is a bust, just throw it out of bounds. You're outside of the pocket, throw it out of bounds, new play, reset. Josh wants to so I also grew up a little bit watching Doug Flutie. If you put on some Doug Flutie highlights, Doug Flutie was extremely agile, and he could roll out on a bootleg, and then he could cut back and do that kind of twirl back against the grain and shake guys. Josh Allen is straight line fast. Josh Allen is not bootleg out, oh, there's a guy there, I'm going to turn around back to the line of scrimmage and curl back the other way. That's always, every time I see that happen, it's disaster. So you want to see that happen, go ahead and pull up the Houston Texans tape from this year. And you're going to see what I'm talking about, where he rolls out, here he shifts out of the pocket, and then he sees that he can't, there's nothing there, or there's a guy coming straight at him in his face, and he tries to bend it back and curl backwards into the pocket to buy more time. Those plays always look like they're going to be disaster. So if it's a designed bootleg or rollout, and if your first and second option are not available, or if you have a blitzer or a free defensive end coming straight at you unblocked, throw the ball out of bounds. Start the next play fresh and get on to the next play. Don't curl back. In the Cleveland game, you see Josh do this. He could have just chucked that ball out of bounds. He was outside of the pocket. He could just throw it away. It's not, for some reason, that's not in his mindset to do that, right? Just throw it away and go on to the next play. He rolls out on a bootleg. There's a defensive end there, so he curls back, and when he curls back, guess who's in his face? Myles Garrett. Now all of a sudden he's running back to his goal line, stretching like, oh, I gotta get the ball to the inch-yard line so I don't take a safety. Throw the ball out of bounds, bro. We love you, Josh. But look, if you're outside of the pocket and it's a blown-up play, throw it out of bounds, bro. Get to the next play. Look, we had to tell you to slide for the first 4 years of your career. Do we got to tell you to throw the ball out of bounds once in a while? We should end every drive in a kick, remember? A field goal, a punt, or an extra point. We literally punted that ball from the inch-yard line. It was like the half-inch yard line. It was less than 10 yards for the punter. It could have been blocked. The guy catches it basically in Buffalo territory, and they're in field goal range right out of the gate. Throw the ball out of bounds. You don't have to, you're up 20-10 or you're dominating that game. I don't know what the score was exactly at that point. But, bro, just throw the ball out of bounds once in a while. It's okay. Even if it's a wasted play. I mean, dude, I've seen you get 3rd and 15 in the snow where you just drop back and run for 15 yards. So throw it away and it's 2nd and 10. I'm sure, we'll figure it out on 2nd and 10 and 3rd and 10. And if we don't, then so what? We'll punt one, So what?
There's always things we can work on as we move forward as a football team offensively. That's going to be an important part of us as we move forward here. It's something that we have to improve on here.
Where are you, last week, and it was just in reference to the run defense, but I'm thinking of overall, you talked about having to be on both sides of the spectrum when it came to the good and the bad. Overall, when it comes to whether it's the receiver question, the run defense question, just where is this team at? Where would you assess this team at this point of the season with the playoffs, just looming ahead?
Yeah, I think we're still we're doing some good things. Every week we improve in a specific area that we want to improve on. But that, again, doesn't mean we're a finished product. There's certain things defensively. You guys are asking about the areas on the offensive side. Special teams, no different. So it's, you want to be focused in on what we're trying to get done. Want to be focused in on what the challenge is this week for us and the opponent that we have in front of us. And, they're the world champs, defending world champs. And we have to continue to improve and finding different ways to do that, as I mentioned before.
Yeah, one thing McDermott is very good at when it comes to coaching is this whole, it's a week-to-week league. Each week's different in terms of matchups. I like the way that he keeps the mindset level, right? It's never going to look perfect every week, right? It's ups and downs. Each team presents different challenges, different matchups. There's some teams that are just frankly a bad matchup for other teams. Houston was a bad matchup for us, in Houston especially. Probably not so much in Buffalo. I don't really fear Houston as much in Buffalo, which is why I think it's going to be very important to make sure you remain higher than Houston in the seeding, in the wild card seeding. Because Houston may go into the 2 seed, whether that's New England or Denver, and they may win that game. So down the road, you would want them to, if down the road happens, you would want them to have to come to Buffalo, because then they don't have the crowd noise and the confusion that it creates at the line of scrimmage for the offense. But McDermott does a great job in the week-to-week mentality, the preparation, the long-term thinking. It's definitely where the strength of his coaching is. His highs aren't too high, his lows aren't too low. It's funny. They say this in relationships too. Like, the thing you fall in love with someone sometimes ends up being the thing that irritates you, right? You love McDermott because McDermott and Bean, they're strategic, long-term thinkers. They're very balanced in their approach. But that same conservative kind of nature can kind of rub you the wrong way if there's a cowardly punt in a very competitive ball game where the other team is seriously coming to play and showing up, like New England, 21-0 out of the gates, and we're like cowardly punting from the New England 45. That kind of stuff can drive me nuts. Also, the fact that there really is no vertical downfield passing game. It seems like, and this is my theory. I'll tell you my theory, and it could be right, it could be wrong. Whatever it is, it's just my opinion. We were at a point with Brian Daboll where the Josh Allen offense was really a vertical offense, first, foremost, and that's what it was. It was Stephon Diggs, it was Gabe Davis, it was a vertical passing offense. It was Emmanuel Sanders the one year. We were a vertical offense, which, by the way, is what Buffalo fans truly love. Again, because we love the Jim Kelly K-gun 3 wide receiver quarterback with a cannon arm, right? Hall of Fame running back in the backfield, Thurman Thomas. Let's call him James Cook now. That's what we love. And then Daboll went away. We had our drama with Ken Dorsey. And then our current Joe Brady, current offensive coordinator, comes in. And Joe Brady, I think, is a very, very talented coordinator. But I think that the coaching staff the leadership of like the GM and the coach over the offensive coordinator's lower. He does what the coach tells him, right? They overcorrected, right? Because we were at a point where Josh Allen was playing hero ball, right? Running around crazy like a madman, chucking it up, taking bad interceptions, forcing the ball to Diggs. And we kept saying, like, you got to help Josh. You got to help Josh. He doesn't have a running game. He doesn't, and they overcorrected. What they've effectively done by making the boundary receiver position a moot point or a nothing burger and drafting, big, dumb, and slow like Keon Coleman, Kelvin Benjamin 2.0 is what I call this guy, is they've overcorrected. They said, look, if we give Josh a true vertical threat, an alpha, a first-round pick, or a true speed receiver, then that's what Josh is going to look for. He's going to hold the ball, and that's his first choice. And if we give him that option, then that's what he's going to do. So we have to overcorrect. How do you overcorrect? Well, you draft Dalton Kincaid in the first round. He's a pass catcher, yes, but he's a tight end. He's not going to be a vertical threat unless he catches the ball at 12 to 15 yards and takes it down the field. You trade back in the draft and let Kansas City get the fast guy and pass on Ladd McConkey from Georgia because you want the big, dumb, slow guy. You want Kelvin Benjamin 2.0 because you cannot afford to give Josh Allen a true vertical threat. If you give Josh Allen a true vertical threat, then Josh Allen's going to hold the ball, not take the check down, not throw to the tight end, not throw to the backs, not throw to anybody. He's going to hold the ball until he sees what's going on with his alpha downfield X receiver boundary guy. And then he'll look at other stuff. So what's going to happen is it's going to look like he's playing hero ball again, right? So my opinion is that the coaching staff overcorrected because if you allow Josh the the authority to make that decision. If he has an alpha receiver like a Diggs or like someone that can just straight, beat you down the field on a, 17-yard, post that could go to the house or just beat you over the top, then Josh is going to be looking for that first, foremost, and all the time, because Josh has a cannon arm and Josh is Josh, right? So they've overcorrected that. They've essentially said, okay, we have to take that away from him. We are not. So now you have an offense with no boundary receivers. That's not by accident. And when Brandon Beane came out early in the year after the draft this year and got aggressive with us about, I know everyone said we should have took a receiver, blah, 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 and that didn't age very well, right? It didn't age well at all. But he was doing that proactively, in my opinion, to defend his coach, because his coach, McDermott, was overcorrecting for the fact that Josh Allen will first, foremost, and always and almost only look for the downfield vertical guy first and foremost. So what does that look like? It's 3rd and 8, and Josh gets the ball and he's dropping back, and instead of taking Khalil Shakir, who's on a 5-yard crosser and he's wide open and he could run after the catch, Josh is going to hold the ball until Khalil Shakir is no longer open, or the tight end, Kincaid, is no longer open. He's going to hold the ball first to see what the guy, the alpha receiver down the field, is going to do, the X, the boundary. And then if the X in the boundary is not a good choice, well, now he's got no one else to go to. So now he's either got to run, and it looks like hero ball, or he's got to chuck it up and maybe throw interceptions and turn the ball over, arm punt, by just chucking it up and seeing what can happen. And so I believe what we're seeing now is this next iteration where they've taken that away from Josh, right? As bad as the Buffalo fans want to see that 3 wide receiver, vertical K-gun style, Kelly and Thurman Thomas style offense, they've taken that away from Josh Allen, in my opinion.
Or spinning the dial to, hey, how are we going to improve in this area of our team overall? What makes us more sustainable, through the course of winning? To win one week is good, but how do you sustain it? That's what we're trying to make sure that we're trying to find the answers to that as we move forward here.
Well, look, bottom line is they have sustained winning. They always kind of have righted the ship. They do a lot of regular season winning. When we get to the playoffs, it's a different story. Typically, the wild card game, they win because, frankly, they usually overmatch whoever's in the wild card game. Typically, we're a 2 seed or a 3 seed. We're hosting the game. We're typically just the better team. It's the divisional round in the AFC Championship game where, again, like cowardly punts come up. It seems like we get tight. One thing I'll say about, as much as I hate the New England Patriots, I remember Bill Belichick as the head coach when they were, they went to, 10 Super Bowls, they won 6, and I remember him and his philosophy, or the Patriot way, the way they would talk about it, and this is probably something that's being reinforced now that they've got Josh McDaniel coaching up Drake May, and they got Vrabel, who was a part of that culture. They would look at playoff games and Super Bowl games as just another game. And I know that's extremely hard to do. But they didn't get uptight. They didn't get nervous. They didn't look at it as high-stakes football. For some reason, they were able to get their mindset around the routine of, it's just another football game. Yes, it's win or go home, but it's just another football game. We're going to train the same way. We're going to prepare the same way. We're going to do the same things, and they're going to be consistent throughout, right? A lot of times we get into bigger games, and it feels like, at least early on in the regime of Beane and McDermott, like they get tight. They get uptight. It seems bigger than, it seems big for them. Like it's a big game. Being at the Super Bowl seems like it would be a big thing, when really, honestly, it's just another ball game. All it is another football game with more hype and more media. And it's easy for me to say because I don't play in it, right? But really, truly, it is just another game. And he should know that. He played in a Super Bowl with Carolina Panthers, and his defense played good ball. Honestly, I think Carolina's offense let him down that year. Cam Newton kind of dropped the ball there.
I know it's tough to onboard a new player at this stage of the season, but what's your level of confidence that Matthew Judon can help you guys, in the next couple of weeks here?
Yeah, we'll see. He went through his year down in Miami, and we had an opportunity to get him onto our practice squad here. We'll see how it goes. We'll just take it one day at a time. He needs to learn, the system and everything, and certainly have a certain level of respect for what he's been able to do to this point in his career.
Does it help that, with Morgan and Shaq, they were both kind of off the street, they weren't really playing all that much and practicing? Does it help that Matt has gone through training camp, has gone through the season to potentially be ready quicker than those guys would have been?
Yeah, perhaps. Again, it's just trying to evaluate where he's at and what we need, and at this point, it helps the competitive nature of our practice squad to this point. So he's only been here, call it a day, if you look at it from just being Saturday. So we're looking forward to working together.
Is there an update, any timeline on Ed Oliver?
No, don't have anything for you.
And then Curtis Samuel,
No, don't have anything.
are you hopeful that he can return hopefully at some point this season, or you don't know?
That is a possibility.
This gets back to the conversation about wide receivers, and honestly, look, this is like a draft philosophy of theirs. Curtis Samuel, this is what Curtis Samuel was. Curtis Samuel we're going into the draft the year that they signed Curtis Samuel, this was the philosophy. We're going into the draft, everybody knows we need a wide receiver. We're going to sign Curtis Samuel, that way we don't feel the pressure of having to take one, to overdraft one, right? Somebody needs to take away their wide receiver card, right? I don't know if you need to hire a consultant or what, but Brandon Beane, Calvin Benjamin 2.0 with Keon Coleman, right? Our best receiver in the last 6 or 7 years is Khalil Shakir in the 5th round. What a joke. Our free agent receivers, Curtis Samuel, what a joke. What a waste of money. What this guy had, he's the most inconsistent, it seems like we haven't even made an effort whenever he was healthy to feed him the ball and see what he could do, which reminds me a lot of when they got Nyheim Hines, and they had him at the end of that one season before he had his injury in the off season where he was jet skiing or whatever. They were at the time, they were bringing all these pass catching running backs in, but they weren't actually throwing them passes or getting them involved in the offense, right? And that's what Curtis Samuel reminds me of that. And even this guy, what's his name, Parker, I think, or whatever his name is, the guy from San Diego Chargers. What a joke. Apparently he separates the best out of all of our wide receivers, but of course he's injured sometimes too, but when he's not injured, when he's in the game, when he's on the field, I don't really see. I see him get like a pass a game, or like maybe they'll throw 2 balls at him and he'll catch 1 ball. What are you doing? You're spending free agent money on Curtis Samuel and a guy like whatever the hell his name is, Parker from San Diego Chargers, whatever his name is. We don't even know his name because he's so rarely used. It's not like you're feeding him the ball. It's not like we see you feeding this guy 6-8 balls a game, right? So what are you even doing? Don't even sign free agent wide receivers. If your philosophy is to overcorrect and to take the boundary wide receivers and the vertical game away from Josh Allen, for the reasons we've discussed earlier in the podcast, then don't waste free agent money on these guys. You can go out, again, 3rd and 4th round every year is what I would do. I would get a receiver in the 3rd round and the 4th round, because you just want to whip them like dogs, make them work, make them earn their 2 balls a game, make them earn their 30 catches a year, so that you don't have to deal with the personality, the diva personality that comes with a guy like Stephon Diggs, right? So stop wasting free agent money on these guys. The money that you put on Curtis Samuel, you could have went out and got, I don't know, a good corner depth or a good linebacker depth. You did a good job with Shaq Thompson. Imagine if you would have used the money that you used on Curtis Samuel and the money that you wasted on this guy from the San Diego Chargers. I don't even know his name because you use him so rarely, Parker or whatever. I don't even know his name. Number 5, I guess, is the guy. Imagine if you would have used that money on a defensive player, right? That you would actually play in rotation. Maybe a better defensive tackle that's younger, stronger, which, by the way, when we start getting into defensive tackle, we'll open another whole can of worms. Because McDermott is forever drafting these small 3 techniques like Ed Oliver and like this guy Sanders in the 2nd round this year. And what does he do this year? He takes a flyer on a guy in the 4th round, and the big guy is holding it down. The big guy is holding it down. He looks like your best defensive lineman. And this is a guy that you basically took a flyer on in the 4th round, right? Football is a big man's game, you know? This is another thing I learned watching the 90s Bills and the 4 straight Super Bowl losses. In the 90s Bills and the 4 straight Super Bowl losses, they played a 3-4 defense, and they always had undersized defensive linemen. And that's why we would do great all year long. We would bend and not break. And then we would get to the Super Bowl, and we would get dominated by a run game like Emmitt Smith. 2 Super Bowls, Emmitt Smith. And the Giants ran all over us and threw to their big tight end over the middle. We had an undersized defensive line. And I see you building that. I see Ed Oliver's undersized defensive tackle, the Sanders guy that you spent a 2nd round pick on. Let's just look at the draft. Who's the better defensive tackle? The guy you got in the 2nd round, Sanders, or the guy you took a flyer on in the 4th round, Walker? Walker is better all day long. He's bigger. He's more physical. A defensive lineman you can plug and play from day one. Day one. You know? So, you know, don't get me started on defensive line.
Couldn't tell you when that's going to happen. Every week we get a little bit closer to that, but no definitive date at this point when we would open that window.
And Joby, what went into that decision yesterday? And I guess overall, when he came back at week 7 after the suspension, what have you seen from him, and what went into the decision, I guess, to start?
Yeah, he's done some good things. It's not a whole lot different than the wide receiver position. You know, we're trying to find the right combination.
Somebody needs to take all of the decision-making power and authority away from you and Bean when it comes to anything related to wide receivers. We need to have some kind, like Terry Pagula should step in and say, look, if we're looking to bring in a wide receiver, we need to bring a consultant in. Because you guys, I mean, we already went over this.
You guys will know we had TJ was inside early in the year. Then he went outside with some of the injuries to the defensive end position. Felt like we wanted to move him back inside this week. We put Andre Jones back, not back, but in at defensive end. So again, just spinning the dial, trying to find the best lineups we can here.
Coach, over the last few weeks here, veterans on defense have really stepped up. Trey's had some good plays. Matt Milano's strung together a few games. Jordan Poyer has an interception yesterday. It being week 16, nobody's 100%. What has allowed some of your older players to play so well at this point in the season?
They probably drive down to the Fountain of Youth that's located down there at Lake Erie and dip their toe in the water, I think, every week. It's great to see. It really is. Those guys have made a huge impact on our organization for years now, and now to have some of those guys back, it's fun to watch. I mean, Jordan's interception yesterday brought a smile to my face. He works extremely hard. He cares about this organization. He cares about his teammates, and I'm sure Micah was smiling somewhere watching it, too. So I think that's pretty special.
Where is James Cook really taking this to another level this year, Sean?
Yeah, just I would say the week-to-week intensity is even different than last year. He had some big games last year, but the look in his eye each week, the intensity that he shows up with, it's really been influential on our whole football team. The guys see that, and that's kind of a little bit unique for a running back position.
Look, guys, it's not unique. James Cook played in the SEC with the Georgia Bulldogs. He won a national championship, and his big brother was a stud NFL running back in Minnesota, Dalvin Cook. So this guy has the pedigree. It's in his family. This guy's won a championship, Look at everybody on the Buffalo Bills roster, top to bottom, every coach, every manager, every GM, every player, and have everybody raise their hands. Who's won a championship? A college football national championship or a Super Bowl? Probably, maybe he's the only guy in the entire room that can raise his hand. And that's why I love Cook. Cook is a dog. and I hope they don't let him go.
Player to have that type of impact on the whole team, and so it's been really good to see. Very few people work harder than him, and I mean, he's on the sideline going over to the defensive guys and encouraging them and challenging them, and
respect.
They're kind of doing the same. Josh is doing the same, and that's.
You know why he can do that? Because in my opinion, only James Cook is the second best player on the entire team. If it wasn't for Josh Allen being the MVP of the NFL last year, the reigning MVP, and in the conversation this year, he would be the best player on the team. But he's the second best player on our team. And he is the top running back in the National Football League. And a lot of that has to do also with the coach's philosophy, heavy run game. He gets a lot of opportunity. A lot of it has to do with we have a great offensive line. A lot of it has to do with defenses need to prepare for Josh. But a lot of it has to do with he's a supremely talented running back. And when he gets his opportunity, he shines, man. He swings for the fences. He swings for the home run ball. And, man, he hits it. The run against Cleveland last week on the first touchdown where he, patiently finds the hole, cuts through the hole, hits top speed, and then boom, cuts back as soon as the safety's hips flip. The second the safety's hips flip and he has the angle where Cook's going to go, boom, his vision to cut it back inside, run through two arms, and he's in the clear. He is unbelievable. He is absolutely. I think a lot of respect for Jonathan Taylor. Different type of back though, more physical. I think in terms of he's gonna be like 4 to 7, 4 to 12 yards in a cloud of dust. James Cook is a serious threat to score the rock from inside the 50. Really, when we get to our own 40-yard line, he's a threat to take it the whole way. He's inside 60 yards from the end zone. He's a threat to take it to the house.
That's leadership at the highest level.
Terrell Bernard, obviously gritty player. He's gone through a couple injuries this year, but I mean, it just hasn't looked the same because he set a pretty high standard the first couple of years that he was in the job. Is that fair to start with? And what did you see out of him watching the tape back?
From yesterday's game? Yeah. TB's been out of the lineup due to injury, I don't know, the last 3 weeks, give or take. I may have missed a week or so there.
He's going to cover for his guy here, and that's fine. Bernard has struggled with injuries. I don't have a problem with the way he played in Cleveland. I thought he made a couple of nice. He was around the ball. He made a couple of physical hits. My problem with Bernard is the way he's deployed, because early on in his career he was someone they would blitz. He would make big plays, sack the quarterback, knock the ball out, he would get into the rhythm of the game because they would blitz him. He was a little bit smaller, but he was fast. He could get through that A gap or that B gap, and he'd be on the quarterback. And lately they've done a couple of blitzes with Milano, and Milano's done a great job. I think Bernard's a little bit faster than Milano as far as getting home. But the problem is he doesn't make the big plays because the defensive philosophy is, at least for the first half of games, and let's see if for the whole game, let's just rush 4 guys and see if they can get home. They really don't want to blitz. See, McDermott's not just conservative on offense, he's conservative on defense. I mean, hell, I'm just a fan and I know his tendencies. He wants to play nickel ball like 90 to 95% of the time. Right? Nickel ball is 4 down linemen, and we just talked about his defensive line. His defensive tackles he loves undersized defensive tackles that penetrate. And so when those guys aren't penetrating, guess what? The running game against us is going to push us around because they're undersized. So if Sanders and when Oliver's in there, if those undersized guys, if they're not penetrating and sacking the quarterback, then they're just getting pushed around in the running game. And so, his philosophy really is, let's just see if we can get pressure with the front 4. My opinion only, McDermott, his fantasy team, is essentially what the Houston Texans are right now. He wants a guy like Will Anderson on one side and like a 1B defensive end on the other. They're endlessly looking for defensive ends. They'll probably try to trade for a dynamic one this year. They want that front 4 where the 2 defensive ends are supremely talented, and the 2 defensive tackles are good enough to pressure up the middle so they can play complementary football and pressure with the front 4. Essentially, if you watch that Houston Texans game and watch what the Houston front 4 only, just their front 4, what they did to Josh Allen, the reigning MVP of the league, that's McDermott's fantasy for defense. And it's hard to get that because he wins so much during the regular season that we draft late in the rounds. You need an alpha defensive end to run that fantasy style of defense, where you can run, you could play nickel like 90-95% of the time. Teams can't run you out of nickel, and you can pressure with your front 4. And he's not going to get that unless he swings a big trade and gets, like, you've heard rumors in the past, we're trying to get Myles Garrett, or we're trying to get Crosby from Vegas, or we're trying to get the guy from Cincinnati, right? Because that's his fantasy. But in reality, you have Greg Rousseau, who's good. He's serviceable, right? Late first-round pick. He holds his own in the running game. And, every once in a while, like against Cleveland, he had a couple sacks and some pressures, and he shows up. But he's not a Myles Garrett that shows up every week and can do it every week. And then on the other side, you got often injured Joey Bosa, who, once in a while, he shows some flashes, right? He doesn't have the guys to do that, but yet he still wants to try it every game first. Right, so you won't really see him in the first half of a game really bringing pressure, which is honestly is a shame. To be honest with you, Coach, it's a shame. Because when our defense is pressuring the opposing quarterback, especially young quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders, I mean, this guy was like, he didn't really get pressured enough. Our defense is a menace and will take the ball away when you pressure the opposing quarterback. I think you don't want to, you're so scared that someone's going to get you over the top of the defense that you don't want to bring a 5th or a 6th guy. But come on, I mean, it's just pure numbers. I mean, you got 11 guys on defense and you're trying to get home with 4. I mean, to be honest, do you really need 7? Do you really need 7 in coverage? You could still run a 2-high safety, and man them up on the corners. And I don't know, I don't have the scheme in front of me, but I mean, to be honest, what made Bernard special is you blitzed him. You blitzed him and he made dynamic plays, but you don't really blitz. You rarely blitz. I don't have the numbers. If we looked at the numbers, your blitz rate probably, aside from the last couple weeks when you really had to do it to get back into games, you're probably one of the lowest in the league in terms of blitz rate, which honestly I don't understand because I've seen teams blitz us. Watch the Atlanta Falcons game. The way they blitzed us, they made Josh Allen, the league's reigning MVP of the league. They made him rush and make bad plays. And last couple years when Kansas City knocked us out of the playoffs, Steve Spagnuolo, what makes Spags someone that... Why does everyone talk about Spags? Why is he special? Because he risks it. He sends dynamic blitzes. Right? He has 2 or 3, dynamic blitzes dialed up, and he uses them at random times of the game or in a big moment when it's a big moment. And we've seen our season end because, they blitzed Josh and Josh couldn't handle it. He didn't have an answer for it, right? So blitzing can work, and it does work, and that's what makes Spagnuolo's defense so difficult to play against. It's really, I think, why we lost the Atlanta game this year. And especially when teams know we've got no boundary receivers that can beat them over the top, look for it. They're going to blitz us, and they're going to come after us.
But nobody wants to play more than he does. He's a true warrior, one of our toughest players. And to your point, he has been dinged up, and so
That's to your point. Yeah, we know that he's been dinged up because he's an undersized linebacker. But what used to make Terrell Bernard special is he would make big plays. He would make big plays in coverage. He'd get an interception. He'd make strip sacks, which typically came when you blitzed him.
Him getting fresh, I think, helps. That's when he's at his best, like any player. It's when he moves the best. So he's one of the biggest leaders we have on defense, and I thought yesterday did some good things for us, and he would tell you that there's some certain plays he wants back as well. So keeping him fresh is important for us as we move forward here.
I know it's not the end goal, and there's so many other goals ahead, but did you take time, or do you have time to reflect on the fact that you're one of 5 teams now to have won 11 games, 6 straight seasons in the NFL? Is there something to take into account?
That's a trap question from the media. They want him to talk about, yeah, we've done a lot of winning around here, but really it's a trap question because they're not winning in the right time of the year, right? They get to big games and it's too big for them, right? So it's kind of a trap question.
Gratitude, right? Gratitude. It's rare that you can do that 1 year, let alone sustain it. You see teams that have been in the conversation, I'll call it year to year, and we're one of them, right? And we all have our goals in mind, and we don't lose sight of those at all. But you do take a second to just say, hey,
this is what I'm talking about. Gratitude, humble, and hungry. Take a second to say, hey, do you know why the New England Patriots snuck up on us so fast this year and snuck up on the entire conference, where they are tied for the conference lead, and they would be the 1 seed if they didn't have the tiebreakers. The Broncos have the tiebreakers on them. But they snuck up fast because the thing that's different about, I'm not even going to give this credit solely to Mike Vrabel, because honestly I think it's more of a Josh McDaniel thing. I think it's a mentality, it's their offense that's really pulling the weight on their team, and it's their young quarterback that's playing at a superior level, and it's the coaching of Josh McDaniel. And he knows that the best path, the most likely path to a Super Bowl is a 1 seed. And the reason they snuck up on the Bills and the AFC East, they're going to win the AFC East. I mean, look, unless there's an epic collapse, they're playing against the Jets and the Dolphins, who have nothing to play for. The Jets want the first overall pick for their next quarterback. The Dolphins would like a higher pick too. I think they benched Tua. All likelihood is that New England's going to win the AFC East. They kind of snuck up on us. They kind of snuck up on the conference. We thought they'd be good, not this fast and this soon. And the reason is because the New England Patriots started this season, they're not competing for a division championship. They're competing for the 1 seed, right? Drake May's a young quarterback, but their mentality is the best path to the Super Bowl is the 1 seed. And all the years that Kansas City has been going to the Super Bowl, they have been competing for the 1 seed, right? Anything less than the 1 seed is a harder path to the Super Bowl. The 1 seed is powerful because you get a bye week while everybody else in the conference is playing a playoff game and beating each other's heads in. And then after the bye week, you need to win 1 home game, and then you're in the Final Four playing an AFC championship game at home in your stadium in front of your fans. Mic drop, full stop. So the question that I would like to hear the media in Buffalo asking more often, and respectfully too, I love Coach McDermott, he's a great coach. I'm not saying that I don't want him to be fired or anything, but I want people to air this out. Like, do you want Coach McDermott in the back? It's Sean with the podcast here, with the Buffalo the Sports Talk podcast here in South Florida. I'd like to ask you a question there, Mr. McDermott. Mr. McDermott, do you understand the importance of the 1 seed? And then shut up. Then shut your mouth. And let's hear what he's got to say. Do you understand the importance of the 1 seed? And if so, why does it feel like we're kind of like always starting the season? I mean, if you look back, aren't we always starting the season like 7-3, 7-4, and then we go on a tear at the end and we finish in the 2 seed? If you understand the importance of the 1 seed, why aren't we taking bigger swings in the offseason? Why are we signing guys like Curtis Samuel and whoever this guy, I don't even remember his freaking name because he's so average, from San Diego Chargers, Parker, whatever the hell his name. I don't even know his name. I hope it's Parker. I don't even know. He's so average. Why are we wasting money on mid-tier contracts for guys we're not even going to feed the ball? We're not even going to make an effort to scheme them open and feed them the ball when they do play. And then often injured, right? Versus taking big swings. Big swings because we know. What do you think New England's going to do this offseason? I'll tell you what New England's going to do this offseason. They're going to go out in the free agent market and in the draft, and they're going to take big swings for their young quarterback who's competing for a 1 seed this year. What do you think next year is going to look like? I'll tell you what next year looks like. Next year looks like this. Coach McDermott, how do you feel? New England Patriots are favored to win the AFC East and maybe even the 1 seed in the conference. Now the arms race is in your division. The arms race is no longer with Kansas City and your mentor that you could never beat, and Patrick Mahomes, who's coming off an ACL. They're in disarray. The arms race right now is in the AFC East. Yeah? And New England's probably going to make big investments in their offense because they want this young quarterback to have the swagger and the confidence. He already has the swagger and the confidence. Josh McDaniels is pumping that kid's head full of, you can win championships here in New England just like Tom Brady. You can be like Brady. Hey, I don't know, can you get 6 Super Bowls? But you can get 2 or 3. Here's another question for the Buffalo media to ask. And I want you to ask Josh Allen this, and I want you to ask Coach McDermott this. How many Super Bowls do you think you can win here as the Buffalo Bills head coach? Full stop. Silence. Josh, over here in the back. It's Sean with the podcast. How many Super Bowls do you think you can win as quarterback of the Buffalo Bills? Full stop. Well, you know, let's see how confident they are. What would you say in New England? Hey, Vrabel, Coach McDaniels, Vrabel, how many Super Bowls do you think that you could win here as head coach and offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots? 3, 4? Drake May's a beast. We're already competing for the 1 seed. Buffalo didn't even see us coming this year. You feel me?
You know, how special it is and how grateful we all are to be part of the consistent nature of our football team and how we've won.
This guy's not even going to see it coming if he gets blindsided, man. His mentor, Andy Reid, went through the same thing, right? A lot of gratitude, a lot of humility, got to a bunch of NFC championship games. They had a winning culture in Philadelphia. Andy Reid is in Kansas City right now because he got fired from Philadelphia, where he won a lot. He did a lot of winning in Philadelphia, right? And he's on Kansas City as the head coach right now because he got fired there. And he was at Kansas City with Alex Smith, the old quarterback of the 49ers, and they had made the playoffs a couple of years in a row, and they got bounced out in the first game. And he was starting to feel the heat, like he felt in Philadelphia before he got fired. They were doing a lot of winning in Kansas City, and they were getting to the playoffs every year, and they kept getting bounced in the first game. And so what did Andy Reid do? He took a big swing. He traded up to get the Buffalo Bills pick and take Patrick Mahomes. We traded back to take Trey White and get compensated the next year, and we got Tremaine Edmonds and Josh Allen in the next draft. Look, man, you can be grateful and you can be gratitude and you can be humble and hungry, but eventually, if you don't take humble and hungry and turn it into cocky and swagger and go out there and win us a Super Bowl, you're going to be like your mentor. You're going to be 1 year after the new stadium, you're going to get fired. Look, you broke the playoff drought. You're consistently getting us to the playoffs and falling short. We're launching the new stadium. At the end of next season, the new stadium has already been launched. Josh Allen is already more than halfway through his career. I don't know. What do we give you Josh Allen's entire career just to do a lot of winning in the regular season? Are you entitled to Josh Allen's entire career?
You see teams who have been up there with us, and some of those are falling off, and how hard it is to sustain it, even for teams that, you know, have been in a dynasty type of situation almost. So
you hear what he said? A dynasty type of situation almost. That's the caveat. Even he puts the almost. Yeah. You heard close but no cigar, right? Like, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. It doesn't count in NFL, right? You're not a dynasty almost, right? You either are a dynasty or you're not.
It's pretty special.